Well, that went all right. Kind of premature on that. If all else fails, find your pliers. Yep, face full of dirt. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Maverick Mods, or welcome to Maverick Mods if you've never tuned in before. My name is Mark. My goal is to keep the survivors on the road, do what you have to. If you have to rob parts from something else, put it on, whatever you got to do, keep the survivors on the road, get them back on the road. They deserve it. This week, not quite a survivor. It's getting close. The shop truck, my 99 Dakota, the other day I walked out and it didn't start. Well, it did start, but it didn't start the first time you bump the key, which it usually does. So it cranked, no start. Key off, key back on, crank, it started. And those symptoms slowly, progressively got worse. And it didn't do it if you'd shut the vehicle off and start it right back up. It only did it when it sat for an hour to two or longer, which that's classic symptoms of the fuel pressure regulator giving up the ghost. It's not maintaining fuel pressure in the fuel rail, which the car needs in order to get that first start, because you got to have fuel pressure to the injectors. So when you have to do the key dance to cycle the fuel pump a couple of times, that then repressurizes the fuel rail. So that's what's going on. Unfortunately, this is where the problem comes in. All of this happened after I started breaking the shop down for our big move up north. So I don't have a lift that I can raise the bed off of the pickup. I don't have an engine hoist that I can raise the bed off the pickup. And believe me, as you're about to find out, trying to drop the tank in one of these or pretty much any vehicle, if there's any way possible to not have to do that, you're better off. And you're about to find out why. So grab your popcorn. Let's get started. All right. Now, normally, this thing just barks right off. Now, nothing. Twice. There we go. And it runs fine. Let's move this to a place I can work on it, and we'll see what's wrong. Symptoms like that generally indicate that fuel pressure is not staying in the fuel rail or in the fuel line from the tank to the fuel rail itself. Generally, it's a fuel pressure regulator. If it were the pump, then I'd have drivability issues. I have no drivability issues once it's running. On these trucks, unfortunately, you can't just change the fuel pressure regulator. You got to change, well, this silver thing on top is the fuel pressure regulator. You can't buy them separately. The only thing you can do is buy an entirely new fuel pump assembly. No way around that. So I get to put in a fuel pump. Unfortunately, Murphy was an optimist. This all happened just about the time I was breaking down the lift, so I can't use the lift to raise the bed. I also took my engine hoist up north when I was moving all that stuff. I don't have the engine hoist to pick the bed up off of the frame. So I get to do this the old-fashioned way. Saw this coming like, all right, okay. I went ahead and ran as much fuel out of it as I could. I'm down to the low fuel light is on. Gonna have to drop the tank out of the bottom. So here we go. And well, just for giggles, thought this just held the strap on, but maybe it holds the filler neck on too. Doesn't matter because the little strap thingy for the fuel filler is broken anyway. All right, there. Oh, it's okay. All right, cool. That works. Not a problem. We're loose, and I do have a. Was that a vent line? Where does that go to? Oh, it goes to the filler neck itself. All right, we're good. Now, I'm hoping you guys can see this. I know you can get a really good shot of the drive shaft. That's about it. But we got I got the floor jack just resting very lightly on the bottom of the tank. This is a plastic tank. I should have a board or something in between there. I can't find one. I mean, the shop is in such disarray right now that, so I'll just be careful. So I'm going to go up here and see if I can just loosen up the tank straps. There's one. And it's too long, of course. It's too long for my deep socket. All right, that's a 15. I guess I'll have to get a wrench on that one. I was hoping not to have to work too hard today. I'm kind of beat up from my time up north. Okay, let's see how this works. All right, it's going to come off very slowly. I don't have a whole lot of room to work up in here. All right, I'm going to see if I can just get it down far enough to be able to get my socket on it. That's loose. Okay. Let's lower this tank down a little bit, see if I can get to the lines. All right, now, in theory, this tank should weigh about 30 pounds or so with the residual fuel in it. I thought about draining that. There we go. Okay, it seems pretty balanced. All right, let me go on the other side here and see if I can see those connectors. Well, I can see my lines and my filler neck is kind of in the way. How is that working? Is that easy to come? I've never taken this off before. I don't know. I think I'm going to have to take the filler neck off at the tank. I can reach my lines. Are these the squeezy type? I think they're the squeezy type. Well, guys, that was kind of a pain in the butt. Hardest part was getting the vent and the fuel filler neck off and figuring out just how to get the connectors loose. Once I got that figured out, they still didn't come off because, well, there's 30 years of dust in there and dirt and whatnot in there. So next, I've got to reach up before I can get the tank completely out. Reach up, disconnect the fuel line, which should just be 2 tabs on the side. Squeeze those, it should pop off. And then the connector, and then whatever this thing is. I'm going to figure out what that thing is. But I'll get those off and we'll get the tank out on the bench. Well, that would have been a whole heck of a lot easier if I'd been able to pull the bed. But you know what? Not everybody has that capability. So, and I don't right now. But it's out. It's kind of, well, it's on the floor. It's not on the bench. I'm going to wipe a little bit of this 30 years of accumulated dirt off, especially around the locking ring, because you don't want that falling in the tank when the locking ring comes off. Now, of course, there's a special tool to get this locking ring off. And that's obviously, a dealer has to have that. But I think we can get by with just a rubber mallet and maybe a flat blade screwdriver. Let's try that. Once I get this off, I am going to drain the rest of the fuel out of the tank. The reason there's still fuel in the tank, this is a 26-gallon fuel tank. But supposedly, you're only supposed to use 20 gallons of it. That's when it hits E, because in order to keep the fuel pump cool, it's got to sit in a pool of fuel. So they solved that problem. Since there's not like a sump, they solved that problem by just limiting the amount of fuel you can take out of the tank, supposedly. I think I see it moving. I don't know if I moved it enough yet. Nope. All right. Now, before I get too all fired crazy, wipe some of the debris off. Again, keep it from hopefully falling in the tank. Probably could just get some air and just blow that off, but I'm too lazy to go get my air hose. Can I get that by hand yet? Nope. Oh, well, maybe. One locking ring. There's a little rubber gasket there. Okay, there we go. All right. I emptied the tank out, and there is a solid 5 gallons of gas in there when this thing reads empty. Just informational. Let me go ahead and get the gas, the little rubber sealer O-ring, whatever it's called, on the new fuel pump. I have checked and verified that everything is in the right orientation and the right position with the old pump. So at least this is the correct pump for this application. Pop that in. Make sure you don't bend the arm for the sending unit. It's supposed to just drop in. Now the funny thing is, I don't know if this thing clocks. And looks like there's a way that seals in there, so I got to kind of work the seal around to get under. It was clocked about like that. That's pretty good. And just for giggles, sending unit goes that way, straight ahead. Yep, that's pretty close. All right, and it's down. Okay, sealing ring. I'm going to wipe that down just to say I did. I took the parts washer up north this weekend too, so I don't have it anymore. Best I'm going to be able to do is just kind of give this a little bit of a wipe some of the worst of the crud off. And I should just be able to spin this back on. Give it a couple love taps. I have no earthly idea how tight this is supposed to be. But it pretty much stopped turning without a whole lot of undue force. So I'm going to call that good. All right. Tank is ready to go back in. There we go. All right. Now, let me get my straps. Well, first off, I got a heat shield that goes in here somewhere. I have to kind of plug everything in as it goes in and up. And that goes on this way. Like so. All right, I think we're good there. Let me get my straps situated here. This should be a whole lot easier going in just because it's about 40 pounds lighter. That's, I'm hoping. And well, that went. All right. Kind of premature on that. Just going to kind of hang it here on the straps for just a second while I plug in the fuel line, fuel sender, and I guess that vent, whatever that thing is. Okay. Now, what I can do is this. Move my light back a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. I can figure out where the tank is actually supposed to go. There we go. All right. Now, slide this way. Where is my heat shield? Gotta have my... Come on. Don't fucking do this to me. Now let's do this. Now what am I hung on? Probably my filler on it. Yep. Face full of dirt. Get over that. Thank you. Now, will you just stay there? Nope. Face full of dirt again. This would have been so much easier if I could have pulled the bed off. Well, maybe the top one will go in. Nope. Of course, nothing can be easy. I just grab that like that. Okay, so I've got the tank hooked up. Electrical, fuel, straps are tight. Filler neck's back on. Vent line is plugged back in. We put some gas in this. Let's see if it works. All right, fuel's back in it. Moment of truth. Do the key dance. Let's go shut that off. That 4 times. Get some fuel pressure going. Come on. Well, it runs, so I must have done something right. Let's see. Shut it off. Of course, it was okay before. Restart, fine. Moment of truth will be after I let it sit for about an hour or so. First thing I got to do is go get some gas. Well, that's going to do it for this week, guys. I just showed you that if there's any way possible to pull the bed off of these pickups to change the fuel pump, or at least raise the bed so that you can access the top of the fuel tank without having to drop the tank, that is definitely the way to go. At 301,000 miles, I think that was the original fuel pump. It could have been, it might have been changed. I'm too lazy to go look at the assembly and see if there's a Mopar sticker on it. So I'm just sticking with my thought that maybe it was the original pump. And fingers crossed, I will get that much life out of the replacement pump. We'll see. Certainly appreciate everybody tuning in and watch me struggle with this. Hope you got a laugh out of it, or maybe you learned something. Maybe you learned what not to do. I knew what not to do. I'm just hard-headed, and I did what I had to do. Please like, share, subscribe, notify, blah, blah, blah. You guys know the drill. It actually does help out. We'll see you next week. Everybody, have a great day.